The year is 48 BC. You are a boatman on the Mediterranean coast of Egypt. The night is moonless. The water is black. Your oars make almost no sound. In the bottom of your boat, wrapped in a linen sack tied at both ends, is a woman. She is 21 years old. She is also the rightful queen of Egypt in exile, hunted, her brother's soldiers controlling every road and harbor between here and Alexandria. If they find her, she dies tonight. If they find you carrying her, you die tonight. She asked you to do this anyway. And you agreed, because she asked you herself. In Egyptian, not Greek, not through a translator, not through a servant. She sat across from you on the dock an hour ago and spoke to you in your own language and looked at you like your answer mattered to her personally. You have never had a queen speak to you before. You row. On the other side of this beach is the palace of Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in the world, commander of Rome's legions, the man who could restore her throne or end her life with a single order. She has no army, no fleet, no allies left in Egypt. She has herself. And that, history would discover, was more than enough. This is the life of Cleopatra. Not the one Hollywood invented. Not the seductress draped across a golden couch. Not the woman who destroyed 2 Roman generals with her beauty. The real one. The one who spoke 9 languages at a time when most rulers spoke only 1. The one who was the first ruler in her dynasty's 275-year history to bother learning the language of the people she ruled. The one who was described by every ancient writer not primarily as beautiful, but as the most intellectually dangerous person they had ever encountered. Rome sent 2 of its greatest generals to control her. Both ended up serving her instead. The third succeeded, but only after she was already gone. Close your eyes. The year is 69 BC. You are standing in the royal quarter of Alexandria, the most extraordinary city on earth. The air smells of salt water from the harbor, papyrus ink from the scribes' workshops 3 streets over, and the particular warm sweetness of a city that sits at the intersection of every trade route in the known world. Spices from India, silk from China, grain from the Nile Delta, wine from Greece, all of it passing through this harbor, this city, this palace. The palace covers 1/3 of Alexandria. Inside it, a girl is born. Her name is Cleopatra, the 7th of her name in her dynasty. Her family, the Ptolemies, has ruled Egypt for 230 years. They are Macedonian Greek by blood, descended from one of Alexander the Great's generals. They are magnificent administrators, ferocious political survivors, and almost entirely disconnected from the people they rule. In 230 years, not one of them learned to speak Egyptian. Not one. They governed through translators. They worshipped Greek gods in Greek temples. Egypt, ancient, magnificent, deeply strange Egypt, with its temples and priests and hieroglyphs, and 3,000 years of history, existed outside the palace walls, like a country they happened to own, but had never visited. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, was a competent but frightened man. He spent enormous treasure bribing Roman senators to recognize his legitimacy. He fled to Rome when his own people revolted. He came back with Roman soldiers. His daughter watched all of this, and she drew different conclusions. By the time Cleopatra was 14, she was already learning languages, not just Greek and Latin, though she mastered both. She learned Egyptian, Aramaic, Hebrew, Ethiopian, Parthian, Arabic, the languages of every kingdom that bordered hers, every people who traded through her harbors, every potential ally and every potential enemy. Plutarch, writing a century after her death, records that she spoke 9 languages, that her voice was described as being like a musical instrument, that people who came to her court expecting to need a translator discovered, to their considerable unease, that she needed none. She was 17 when her father died. She was 18 when she became queen. She was 19 when her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, backed by powerful court advisors, decided she was too independent to be manageable. They moved against her. She had to run. To understand what Cleopatra was fighting to reclaim, you need to understand what Egypt actually was in 48 BC. Picture yourself arriving in Alexandria by ship for the first time. You see the lighthouse first, the Pharos of Alexandria, 135 meters tall, visible from 50 kilometers at sea, the greatest man-made structure in the world outside the pyramids. At its top, a fire burns day and night. The light is amplified by a polished bronze mirror. Ships from every nation navigate by it. As you enter the harbor, the scale of the city reveals itself slowly. You step onto the dock. The wood is warm beneath your feet. It has been absorbing heat since before dawn. The smell hits you immediately. Fish from the morning market, cedar resin from the ships being repaired along the eastern quay, and underneath everything, the particular sweetness of a city built on the Nile Delta. Not river smell, something older, richer. You turn into the Canopic Way. You stop. You are used to Rome's streets, the narrow press of them, the perpetual crush of bodies, the noise bouncing off walls close enough to touch on both sides. Rome smells of people and cooking fires and the Tiber. The Canopic Way is 30 meters wide. 30 meters of pale limestone, polished smooth by a million footsteps, colonnades on either side casting cool shadows even now at midday. The buildings behind the colonnades are 4-5 stories high, white stone, painted plaster, windows open to the sea breeze. Ahead of you, the street runs so straight and so far that it seems to end not in buildings, but in the sky itself. 500,000 people live in this city. You cannot feel them all pressing against you the way Rome's million press against you. Alexandria was built to breathe. And at its heart, the Mausian, the great research institution, the library, the place where Cleopatra had been educated, the library itself held between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls. Everything the ancient world knew, written down, cataloged, preserved. But the library and the lighthouse were not why Rome wanted Egypt. Egypt grew grain. More grain than anywhere else in the ancient world. The Nile flooded every year with a regularity that made Egyptian agriculture almost mechanical in its productivity. Rome, a city of 1 million people, imported a significant portion of its food supply from Egyptian grain. Whoever controlled Egypt controlled Rome's food supply. Egypt was not a country. It was the most valuable piece of real estate on earth. And a 21-year-old woman in a linen sack was about to stake her claim to it. Now, feel the position Cleopatra was actually in. You are the queen of the richest country on earth. You are also, as of 6 months ago, hiding in Syria with a small army you cannot afford to pay, a brother who controls your capital, and a Roman general who has just arrived on your doorstep, whose decision about which sibling to back will determine everything. That Roman general is Julius Caesar. He arrived in Alexandria, chasing Pompey, his defeated rival in Rome's civil war. He arrived to find Pompey already dead, his head delivered in a basket by Ptolemy XIII's advisors, who thought this would please Caesar. It did not please Caesar. It unsettled him. And now Caesar is sitting in the royal palace of Alexandria, officially neutral, waiting to see which sibling is worth backing. Ptolemy XIII has the palace, the army, and the capital. Cleopatra has herself. She found a merchant, a Sicilian named Apollodorus, loyal to her. She told him what she needed. He procured a linen sack large enough for a person. She climbed in. Think about what that moment feels like. You are the rightful queen of the richest country on earth. You are 21 years old. The linen is rough against your cheek coarse weave, the kind used for grain shipments, smelling faintly of the sea and something dry and dusty underneath. The air inside is close and warm. It will get warmer. You hear Apollodorus tie the ends. The knot tightens above your head, and then you are lifted his shoulder under you, the world tilting, his breathing changing as he takes your weight. His footsteps on stone, steady, not rushing. Rushing would attract attention. You hear the city around you through the linen, voices. Someone haggling over fish, a cartwheel grinding over the joins in the pavement, children somewhere. The ordinary sounds of a city at evening that has no idea what is moving through it. And then his footsteps change shorter, more deliberate. The air smells different. Lamp oil, cool stone, the palace gates. You hear the guards' voices. One of them says something. Apollodorus answers. His voice is easy, bored. A merchant who has delivered supplies here a dozen times, who would like to finish his evening now, if the gentleman would step aside. A pause. You lie completely still. Your entire future, Egypt's entire future, depends on a Sicilian merchant's steady nerves and a Roman general's willingness to listen. The footsteps move again. Apollodorus set the sack down on the stone floor inside Caesar's quarters, the sound of his breathing as he untied the ends, the knot loosening, the cool air rushing in. She stood up. What happened in the next hour, Plutarch records, was the beginning of everything. Not because she was beautiful. Plutarch is quite specific that her beauty, while real, was not her primary quality. What Caesar encountered was a young woman who spoke to him in his own language without an accent, who had clearly read every significant Roman document about Egyptian-Roman relations, who understood exactly what he needed and exactly what she could offer, and who presented her case with the precision and confidence of someone who had been preparing for this conversation her entire life. Caesar was 52 years old. He had met every significant ruler in the Mediterranean world. He had never met anyone like this. By morning, he had chosen her side. The story history tells about Cleopatra focuses almost entirely on the men around her, Caesar, Antony, Octavian, as if she were a supporting character in their stories rather than the central figure in her own. But there is another story, one that almost no video bothers to tell. The story of how Cleopatra actually governed Egypt. Picture yourself as an Egyptian priest in the Temple of Hathor at Dendera in 48 BC. The temple is old. Its foundations were laid hundreds of years before the Ptolemies arrived. The walls carry reliefs of Egyptian gods in the old style. The air inside smells of incense and old stone, and the particular dry warmth of a building that has been sacred for so long the sanctity itself seems to have settled into the walls. The rituals performed here have been performed the same way for 1,000 years. Every Ptolemaic ruler before Cleopatra treated you and your temple with distant, bureaucratic respect. They sent taxes. They occasionally sent building grants. They never visited. They certainly never spoke to you directly. They would have needed a translator. And the dynamic of a translator between a ruler and a priest changes everything. It makes the ruler distant, foreign, a functionary, not a pharaoh. Then Cleopatra comes. She walks into the temple and speaks to you in the language of the rituals, not tourist-level Egyptian, the priestly register, the formal language of temple ceremony. Her voice is calm, certain. She knows which gods are worshipped here and what they are owed. She participates in the ritual as pharaoh, not as observer. She is not performing for you. She has prepared for this the way a professional prepares for the most important presentation of her career. The temple walls at Dendera still carry her image today, carved in Egyptian style, named in hieroglyphs, not as a Ptolemaic queen, as pharaoh. This is the Cleopatra history book skip. The one who understood that real power, lasting power, does not come from the soldiers who enforce your rule. It comes from the people who believe your rule is right. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, had soldiers. He had palace advisors. He had the physical capital. He did not have the temples. He never learned to speak to them. She had spent her entire adolescence learning to speak to them. Here is the thing that Roman historians, almost all of whom were hostile to her memory, agreed on despite themselves. Cleopatra was not primarily dangerous because of her appearance. Plutarch writes with the particular frustration of someone who wants to say one thing and keeps finding the evidence points another way. He records that her beauty, while real, was not remarkable compared to other women of her time and station. What he keeps coming back to instead is her voice, her presence, the quality of her mind in conversation. He writes that spending time with her was like being with someone who had prepared specifically and completely for this one conversation with you, that she remembered everything, that she made connections that other people missed, that she somehow knew what you were about to say before you said it. Roman aristocrats found this profoundly unsettling. They were used to intelligent people. Rome produced intelligent people, but Roman political intelligence operated in a relatively closed system. Latin, Greek, the traditions of Roman law and Roman rhetoric. Cleopatra operated in 9 languages across 5,000 years of recorded human civilization. She had read the Egyptian temple texts that the priests of Memphis considered their most sacred secrets. She had studied the astronomical records of Babylonian astronomers dating back 700 years. She corresponded in Hebrew with Jewish scholars in Alexandria's enormous Jewish community. She negotiated in Parthian with ambassadors from the East. She was not playing the same game as the Romans. She was playing a larger game, on a larger board that they didn't fully know existed. Now put yourself in the banqueting hall at Tarsus, 41 BC. The hall is warm torches in every bracket along the walls, the air thick with the smell of roasted meat and Syrian wine, and the smoke from the incense Cleopatra's servants have been burning since before the guests arrived. The ceiling above you is hung with decorations, garlands, and what appear to be golden ornaments, catching the torchlight. You are Mark Antony. You are the most powerful Roman general east of Italy. You have just summoned the Queen of Egypt to account for herself. You are doing her a favor by meeting with her at all. You reach up, almost idly, and touch one of the golden decorations. It is heavy in your hand, cold. You look more carefully, then you look around the room. Everything, the garlands, the ornaments, the ceiling fittings, is solid gold. All of it. Not gilded, not painted, solid. And Cleopatra, watching you from across the room, says nothing. She is giving it to you, all of it, as a gift, as if it is nothing. As if she has more gold than she knows what to do with, which, of course, she does. You are the most powerful man in this room. You have just realized you are outclassed. She had outspent, outmaneuvered, and outsignaled Antony before a single word of negotiation had been exchanged. She had made him feel small with generosity. This is not seduction. This is statecraft, the most sophisticated kind. Before we reach the end, you need to see where she was educated. Walk into the Maltian at Alexandria at mid-morning. The air changes the moment you step inside. Outside, heat, noise, the smell of the harbor. Inside, something entirely different. Cool stone, thick walls that absorb the city's sound until it becomes a low, distant hum. The smell of old papyrus, dry and particular, like cedar but softer. The smell of compressed thought, and underneath it, the faintest trace of the lamp oil used by scholars who worked here through the night and left before dawn. The shelves around you hold between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls, Euclid's geometry, Eratosthenes' calculation of the circumference of the earth, accurate to within 1%, Herophilus's dissections, the first systematic study of the human body, 700 years of Babylonian astronomical records, the collected texts of Egyptian temple traditions. Everything the ancient world knew. In this room, Cleopatra had access to all of it from the time she was a child. She did not come here to be educated in the way Roman aristocrats were educated, to learn the right things to say at dinner, to recite approved texts, to appear cultivated. She came here to be armed. She walked out of the Maltian every day for years, and she walked out different from everyone else who had ever studied there. Because she was not collecting knowledge, she was building an arsenal. Walk back out into the Alexandria morning, the heat hits you again. The harbor sounds, the smell of the city returning all at once. She protected all of this for 21 years. With no army she could fully trust, no Roman backing she could rely on permanently, no alliance that was guaranteed to hold. With only herself and what she had prepared. The end began at sea. The year is 31 BC. The place is Actium, a cape on the western coast of Greece. The air smells of salt and burning pitch, and the particular human smell of an army that has been camped in the same position for months. The sound is oars and wind and the creak of massive warships. Cleopatra is 41 years old. For 10 years, she has governed Egypt alongside Mark Antony. Together they have had 3 children. Together they have built an alliance that Octavian Caesar's adopted heir, master of the Western Empire, has spent a decade maneuvering to destroy. Octavian's war against them was not really a war against Antony. It was a war against Cleopatra. He declared war, not on Antony, on Cleopatra. At Actium, their combined fleet met Octavian's. When Antony's left wing began to buckle, Cleopatra made a decision that historians have argued about ever since. She broke through the battle line and sailed south. With the treasury, with 60 ships, back toward Egypt. Antony, seeing her flagship's purple sail disappearing through the gap in the battle line, abandoned his own ship and followed her. Plutarch, who had access to eyewitness accounts, suggests it was neither cowardice nor betrayal, but a misjudgment. That Cleopatra broke for Egypt when she believed the battle already lost, and that Antony followed her in a moment of personal loyalty that overrode his military judgment. What followed? Months of negotiation. Octavian advancing on Alexandria, Antony's forces dissolving, and then a false report reaching Antony that Cleopatra was already dead. Antony fell on his sword. He was still alive when they brought him to her. She was barricaded in the mausoleum she had built. They hauled him up through a window with ropes. The ancient sources say she pulled at the ropes herself, the blood on her hands and arms, her hair loose, calling his name. He died in her arms. She was captured 3 days later. Octavian came to see her in person, and what he found was not what he expected. A woman of 41, even in captivity, even in grief, was conducting the meeting on her own terms. She had prepared documents. She had a case to make. She argued for her children's inheritance, for Egypt's status, for arrangements that would protect her people. Octavian listened, made no commitments, left. He had already decided he was going to parade her through Rome in chains. Cleopatra found out. The air in the mausoleum that final morning was hot. August in Alexandria, the kind of heat that sits on your skin and does not move. The smell of flowers she had ordered flowers brought in. Lotus and Syrian rose, their sweetness heavy in the still air. Her two attendants, Iris and Charmian, moved quietly beside her. The sound of their footsteps on the stone floor. The faint sound of the harbor, outside oars, voices. A city that did not know what was happening inside these walls. She had bathed. She dressed in her royal robes, the gold headdress, the ceremonial collar, the linen so fine it was almost translucent. She had a meal, brought figs from the market, in a basket. She wrote a letter to Octavian, asking to be buried beside Antony. When Octavian's men arrived and broke down the door, they found her on her golden couch, dressed as a queen, already dead. Iris lay at her feet. Charmian stood beside her, still standing, barely, still adjusting Cleopatra's headdress with her last strength. One of the soldiers demanded, "Was this well done?" Charmian answered, "Exceedingly well done, and worthy of the descendant of so many kings." Then she fell. The method of Cleopatra's death has been debated for 2,000 years. The asp, the Egyptian cobra, is the traditional account, recorded in Plutarch, but Plutarch himself acknowledges the evidence is ambiguous. A small puncture wound on her arm. No snake found in the room. Some ancient sources suggest a poison hidden in a hairpin. No one knows with certainty. What is not ambiguous is the choice. She was 41 years old. She had ruled Egypt for 21 years. She had held the richest country on earth through assassination attempts, civil war, the loss of 2 allies, and the full military force of Rome. She did not surrender. She chose the manner of her own ending, the only decision, at the last, that was still entirely hers. Octavian was furious. He had wanted the triumph. He killed her son Caesarion, Caesar's son, 17 years old within weeks. Egypt became a Roman province. 3,000 years of Egyptian independence ended in that mausoleum on an August morning. And Octavian, who renamed himself Augustus and ruled the greatest empire on earth for 40 more years, was remembered by history as the man who defeated Cleopatra, not the man who outlived her. The distinction matters.
No vocals.
A few months after her death, Octavian commissioned portraits, statues, coins, official images of the defeated queen for his triumphal decorations. He needed her face, the face of the enemy he had conquered, for the parade she had denied him. He used her image to celebrate a victory she had robbed him of, the satisfaction of completing. This, too, tells you something. You do not commission commemorative portraits of people who didn't matter. The city of Alexandria survived her by centuries. The library disappeared slowly, not in one dramatic fire, but across decades of neglect and conflict. The lighthouse stood for another 1,000 years before earthquakes brought it down. Its stones are still visible today, underwater in Alexandria's harbor, seen by divers who swim above what was once the most extraordinary city on earth. The language she learned, Egyptian, would become a dead language within a few generations. The hieroglyphs carved on temple walls, including her image at Dendera, would not be read again until 1822, when a French scholar named Champollion deciphered the Rosetta Stone. Her daughter, Cleopatra Selene, eventually became queen of Mauritania. The boys disappear from the historical record. And today, her name is the most recognized female name from the ancient world. More films have been made about her than any other figure from antiquity. More books, more operas. Almost none of them are about the person Plutarch actually described. But here is what no history book will tell you. The next time you walk into a room where everyone else seems more powerful, more established, more certain of their place, and you feel the particular cold clarity of knowing you have only yourself. Remember, a 21-year-old woman climbing into a linen sack on a dark beach. The rough weave against her cheek, the close air, the footsteps of a merchant carrying her through enemy lines. No army, no fleet, no allies, just herself. And everything she had spent her entire life preparing to become. The next time you are told that the way things work is the way things have always worked, that the rules are fixed, the system cannot be changed from the outside, remember that she learned 9 languages because she understood that the person who speaks everyone's language has access to rooms that are locked to everyone else. She did not change the rules. She rendered them irrelevant. And the next time someone reduces you to a single story, the easy story, the comfortable story, the story that requires nothing of the person telling it, remember what Plutarch actually wrote. That her beauty, while real, was not her most remarkable quality. That what people remembered, years after meeting her, was the sensation of being in the presence of someone who had prepared for exactly this conversation. Someone who knew your language. Someone who saw you. Someone who, in a close, warm darkness, with rough linen against her face and enemy soldiers 3 meters away, chose to believe that preparation was enough. It was. She walked out of exile in Syria. She climbed into a linen sack. She stood up in front of Julius Caesar. And she got to work. If this video showed you a Cleopatra you had never seen before, hit that like button and subscribe. Every week, we go inside the lives of people history turned into symbols and give them back their complexity. And tell me in the comments what hit you hardest. Was it the 9 languages, the woman who made herself fluent in the language of every person who had power over her destiny? Was it the temples, the queen who spent her adolescence learning to speak to her own people, while every ruler before her couldn't be bothered? Was it the linen sack, the rough weave, the close air, the footsteps, the sound of soldiers 3 meters away? Or was it the final morning, the flowers, the figs, the letter to Octavian, the golden robes, and Charmian still standing, still adjusting her queen's headdress, refusing to fall until the last possible moment? Tell me. I read every single one.